Hey everyone, how are you doing? My name is Jason Lawrence. I am a real estate agent and a home builder here in southeastern Wisconsin. Actually, part owner of a real estate company, and we're a custom home builder here in southeastern Wisconsin. I do quite a bit with vacant land. We help a lot of our clients find the piece of property that they want to build on. And there's a couple things that go along with doing that. From a builder's perspective, if we're finding a property for a client, we want to make sure we know what all of the improvement costs are going to be. So when we're putting pricing together for a customer, we want to know, is there sewer and water at the lot? Would just be a prime example. Is it at the lot? Is it across the street? Is it on our side of the street? Is it at our lot line? There's a lot of different things that can go into the cost being here or way up here for sewer and water. So when you're looking at property, make sure that you're putting in proper contingencies to do some investigation. So it's okay to go ahead and get the accepted offer on the lot, but you want to make sure you're going to put a contingency in there that gives you, to be safe, you're probably going to want 10 to 20 days to be able to do your due diligence. And if you're looking at a piece of property to build your home on and you've got a builder that you're working with, you can lean on the builder a little bit and have them investigate some of these things and tell you what these costs are going to be. I've got a little story of somebody that came in to build a home with us, and right in the area here, and it's a larger acreage piece of property. And when you get east of the interstate in our area, which is Racine County, most of the properties are gonna have sewer and water. When you get west of the interstate, you're typically gonna be well and a mound septic system. So this particular property was east of the interstate. We came in, we started talking about building, we were putting costs together. They had told me that the lot was going to require a mound septic system and a well. Now, I wasn't involved with the purchase of this lot, because had I been, things would have went a lot differently. But we went through and we figured out all the pricing. We built in allowances for a mound septic system, which in our area is typically going to be, between $20,000 and $25,000. We built in an allowance for a well that's typically going to be between $10,000 and $15,000 depending on the depth. Everything was all good. We're moving forward, and then we find out that water is within 300 feet of the lot, and because of that, they have to hook up to the water. The house is going to be 400 feet off of the road, so just to bring the water from the street to the house, that's a long ways to go. There's going to be some big expense with that, and it'll probably end up exceeding the expense of a mound septic system. Now, here's the kicker that came along with that. Not only did they have to connect to water, but they had to extend the water main from where it was all the way across the front of their property. That is an ordinance with the particular area that we're in, and every village and town is going to be different with that. In some areas, you can just hook up to the water. In other areas, they may have an ordinance like this where not only do you hook up, but you have to extend it all the way across the property line, so that when the next person on the next property over comes time for them to build, they have to do the same thing, but that way the water is there for them. So the cost to extend this water main, because now you're talking about an 8-inch water main in the road, and digging up the road and putting in a lot different pipe than you're putting in if you're just running a water lateral from the main to your house. In addition to that, they also needed to hook up to the sewer. So the well was out of there, the mound septic system, that was out of there, because sewer was also at the road as well. So it ended up being a cost that I would say it's probably 3 times the amount of the septic and well. And that was something that the buyers had no idea about. When they purchased the lot, they paid a premium price for the lot, and the realtor that they had writing the offer for them should have investigated and found this stuff out. This wasn't stuff that was hidden to the general public. These were things that could have been, I won't say easily found out, but they could have been found out if they were investigated properly. Over the years of doing a lot of raw land and even improved land deals, I've learned that nothing is as it seems. A lot of times a listing is going to say sewer and water at lot or sewer and water available. And most people are going to look at that and they're going to say, okay, the lot's got sewer and water. Well, that's not always the case. If it says sewer and water is available and your lot is here, then there may not be sewer and water at your lot line. It may be across the street. Now, to get sewer and water from across the street to your side of the street, number one, you've either got to cut open the road and you've got to extend the main over to your side of the street, and then you've got to run laterals off of the main. Nowadays, a lot of people or companies that are doing this type of work, they're able to do directional boring, which helps save cost in some circumstances because they don't have to cut open the road and then fill back in the road. If you cut open a road, you need to fill it in with stone, concrete, you need to patch the asphalt or the concrete, whatever's there. It's cutting open the road is probably most of the expense when it comes to doing something like that. So the fact that they're able to directional bore, it's basically like a drill machine where they're able to take this pipe and bore it underground. It's amazing what they can do with this stuff. They can bore pipes now that are, 12 inches in diameter, or maybe even wider than that. So if you need to have sewer or water, to run from the street or maybe from your lot line and you're sitting way back on the property, they can directional bore this. And depending on the terrain of the property, if there's a lot of trees or obstacles that are in the way, it makes more sense to do that than to dig a trench all the way from the street to your house. But you really want to make sure and be careful when you're purchasing a lot, even if it's in a subdivision and they're marketing this lot as being fully improved. You want to make sure that you've got contingencies in the offer, that you're doing your due diligence or your builder is doing the due diligence to let you know what all of these improvement costs are going to be. If you've got a budget of, we'll say $600,000 for a lot and a home build, and you find a lot for 100, your home build's gonna cost you 500, okay, perfect, I'm gonna come in right at the budget. But then once the builder starts to put final costs together, maybe you purchased this lot a year ago, the builder is starting to put final costs together, and now they're determining that, oh boy, sewer and water is across the street, gas and electric are across the street. In some cases, there may not be a gas main that runs in front of the property. I've encountered this more than a few times, even on my own home build, where the gas main stopped on the north side of my property. My property is 250 feet wide. I had to have the gas main extended all the way across the front of my property. That was something I had no idea about, and that was family land, so there was a little bit of a difference there. I didn't need I knew what we were getting there, but there's other properties we've built on that have had the same thing. There's a property that we're building on for somebody right now where, usually when you're in a rural area and you're building on a piece of raw land, you've got the electrical poles that run all the way down the street, and you've got your electrical wire that runs all the way down the street, and it's either going to be on your side of the lot or on the other side, or on your side of the street or on the other side of the street. And in this case, there were no electrical poles along this whole part of the street. There was a home that was built way off to the north, and this particular property was probably a good 500 feet from there. So they need to put in new, like the wood poles that they attach the electrical wires to, they need to put in new poles and extend the power all the way down to this property. And you might think that that would be something that the power company would cover because they don't have the infrastructure there. That's just something that they cover. Wrong. Any expense that has occurred with gas and electric, you as the customer are going to be paying for that. If there's no gas main in front of your property, you're going to pay for them to extend the gas main. And you may say, well, isn't that a public service? Shouldn't they have gas mains running all the way up the road? Well, not necessarily. They put in their gas mains where they need to in order to service the homes that are there. So if you're building in a rural area, or maybe even a non-rural area, but somewhere where the street has stopped and a driveway's been extended off of it, or the street's been extended and they haven't done that yet, you're in many times going to be responsible for whatever that cost is when it comes to gas and electric. So there's a lot of things to look for when it comes to purchasing a lot. Make sure you've got contingencies in there to protect yourself, because you may find out, hey, I like the price of this lot, but after you start to dig into what all the improvement costs are going to be, you're figuring out that these improvement costs are going to be way above and beyond what the norm is. And so maybe that's now taking your lot and build out of your budget. And so if you've got these contingencies in your lot offer, now you can have an out. You can go back to the seller and you can say, hey, due to my contingency I had in the contract, I'm able to deliver to you in writing the reason why I'm going to pull out of this land deal, and you're going to have specific contingencies in there. And if you're in our area, you can use me to do that, and I can represent you and I can investigate the lot to make sure that you know and fully understand what all of the improvement costs are going to be. And that goes for anything. Even if you're buying a piece of land that you're not going to build on, you want to know what it's zoned for. You want to know what the future land use is called out for. If you're buying a piece of property for an investment and it's just farmland, you want to know, how many tillable acres there are. That really goes into how valuable a piece of farmland is. In our area right now, farmland sells for between $10,000 and $13,000 an acre. So if I've got a 100-acre piece of farmland and it's all tillable and it's good land, that's probably going to sell for close to $13,000. But if I've got a 100-acre parcel and only 50 acres of it is tillable, well, that reduces the value of it. And the seller may not think so, but for you, the buyer, that's something that you need to understand, especially if you're going to be leasing that land out to a farmer. So there's just so much to look at when it comes to purchasing raw land, improved land, or any type of land. If you're in a scenario where you're thinking about purchasing land, or you're at that point where you want to purchase land, you can contact me, 262-818-1838. I've also got my email address that I'll have in the channel here. It's jason@josephscotthomes. I can help you out with that, and I can ensure that you're not going to get yourself into trouble. Well, that's all I've got for this video. Thank you so much for your time in watching this. Take care, and God bless.